Right. So, colleagues, once again, warm greetings to all of you. My name is Mr. Privilege, and I welcome you to our AUI 4863 tutorial orientation seminar for the 2026 academic year. So just as part of our opening remarks, I just wanted to explain who we are so that you have insight on how this is going to operate. So, GradQuest is a private tutorial institution specializing in academic support for students from undergraduate level all the way to PhD level, right? So in your case, obviously, majority of you are doing the postgraduate program at honors level, either it's internal auditing or risk management or whichever, postgraduate program that you are doing, perhaps that requires you to do this particular module. How we are structured as a team, we comprise of highly qualified tutors across diverse fields of study, that is including the economics, management, and social sciences faculty. We also specialize with science and information technology related subjects and the law faculty. Our primary goal is to help students complete their qualifications in record time, and we intend to achieve this through personalized, value-driven tutoring services designed to strengthen understanding and academic performance. Our approach, we believe in teamwork and collaboration between the tutors as well as the students. So you are going to notice that as we are going to engage in this particular seminar, particularly when I get to the part where we would discuss a practical assignment or previous assignment question, you are also more than welcome to engage, whether you are to ask questions or you want to get clarity in certain areas here and there. You're more than welcome to actually do that. So that's what I mean when I'm saying collaboration between the tutors and students. So it's more of an engaging type of an engagement approach that we apply, right? And then in terms of if you need more details regarding to our services and more, there is a corporate website which is still undergoing some updates, development. So it will only be live from the 31st of this month. That's when it will be live, and you can be able to access several other subjects that we facilitate or that we provide tutoring services on, right? This is what we're going to be looking into as part of our discussion. Primarily, I'll take you guys through the module content outline regarding to the structure that there is with regards to this module. I would also give some bit of insight pertinent to the assignments that you're going to be expected to complete for the purpose of this module. I'll also elaborate a bit further in detail pertinent to our tutorial or tutoring services. And then we are going to also engage in a practical class discussion setup where I'll take you through one of the past assignment questions, which is what I've already shared in the group. So it will be the second assignment for the 2025 academic year, right? So without any waste of time, I want to take you briefly further on the assumed knowledge, which is part of the module content outline. So colleagues, whenever I mention of assumed knowledge, I'm simply referring to the key information of note that you need to know for the purpose of understanding the module, number one, and number two, that you need to be braced with in order to capacitate you in responding to the questions that you're going to come across in the assignment, and also questions that you're going to come across even during the examination time. Right. So it's very, very important that you take cognizance of this. So according to the module structure in this AUI 4863, it is set up of 5 essential topics. Topic 1 being on the planning and conducting an internal audit engagement. Right. What is important to note is the planning activities that actually transpire when an auditor, or rather in this case, when an internal auditor is planning for an audit engagement. So there are certain steps that you are expected to carry out. Some of these you actually learned about them at undergraduate level during I think AUI 2601. The same thing also was dealt with in a greater detail in AUI 3701. So all these modules that I've pointed out, these are at undergraduate level, right? So, but then they do, to a certain extent, complement what you would see under topic 1 in this module. Then topic number 2, it expounds further on the internal audit process. And whilst I'm on that, whilst I'm talking about that, I just wanted to say this. So with the internal audit process, you have got your pre-engagement activities, right? Which takes place before you can even commence with the actual planning of the audit. After the planning of the audit, which is step number 2, then you have performance of the internal audit engagement, right? Whereby you execute what you would have drafted as your what you would have drafted in the work program within the working papers. So you begin to execute those audit procedures during the performance of the engagement stage, right? And then lastly, you would have completion of the audit and monitoring that takes place. So with the reporting, I just also need to point this out. It's very important to understand that there are different types and forms of reporting that takes place whenever an audit engagement is being performed. The primary, or rather, let me say the main reporting, obviously being one that will be done in form of an audit file or the audit report, as they would call it, which would obviously summarize the audit findings that were identified throughout the course of the audit engagement, right? And then obviously also for a high-level overview of the audit for the purpose of use by executive management within the organization, and also, of course, for the interest of the board. But then you also have instances whereby when the audit is being carried out, right? When the audit is being carried out and there's risk, or maybe there are risks that are, urgent, or let me say that detrimental to how the organization is doing things and needs to be attended to urgently. There is what we call preliminary reporting that takes place on an ad hoc basis, so that it it is brought to the attention of management, or in some instances even brought to the attention of the board for them to take corrective measures immediately. A good example that I can give you with such circumstances like that, it's a case where, for instance, let's say in a government sector, right? Because I've been exposed to that auditing space. So in the government sector, say for instance, during the audit, you figured that there are suppliers that are added, say on the supplier list within a particular department in the government, but there is no confirmation whatsoever of their existence. But these individuals, or let me say these supplier entities, have been receiving funding from that department for at least a period of 5 years, just as a good example. So that would be an example of a finding that has to be reported urgently or immediately to management, or even better so to the attention of the audit committee in that sense. So I'm just saying all of this just to say, look, when you're looking at the internal audit process, those are some of the elements that you need to be familiar with. And another key thing is understanding how to report a finding. It's very important to have that understanding, because sometimes things that you might come across even in practice that you might assume is as a finding, they might not necessarily appear as a finding. Remember, when you're reporting a finding, part of the criterion is that it has to be an actual policy of the organization, number one, or number two, if it's not a policy, it has to be either a regulatory measure that is expected to be obliged with by the company, right? Sometimes it can even be maybe the framework in place that the organization is using. A good example I can give, maybe a risk management framework, right? So if those things have not been complied with, for example, then you can have that as part of your criterion, and then you can be able, in a certain extent, draft a finding on the basis of that. Okay. Then another important topic to note, but look, most of these things, guys, we're going to get into details around them at a later stage. But before I continue to fraud, so there are 5 important elements. Most of this you already know from undergraduate level. So there has to be a criteria, there has to be a condition, there has to be a cause, there has to be an effect, and then, of course, there has to be a recommendation. Very important. So all of those, you're going to touch on them again in topic number 2. Then fraud is another important topic of note for the purposes of this module. So it's fraud auditing. So now it's not a new concept, but it's something that you also learned about at undergraduate level. I understand that some of you colleagues in this in this program, you probably come from different universities or tertiary institutions, not necessarily through UNISA, for example. So sometimes when I give reference to an undergraduate level module in auditing, you might be wondering, okay, what is that? And all, but yeah, I'm gonna some of those things, or rather, let me say some of those modules, I do have actual references to them, so I can be able to share that with you guys at a later stage as we proceed in this module. But now, fraud auditing, it's not a new concept, as I mentioned. It's something that most of you are familiar with from undergraduate level. For instance, in my case, I did the program, my undergraduate program at the University of Pretoria. So fraud auditing, it's a concept that we were introduced to at second year level. We did proceeded with it even all the way to my third year level. And I still found the same thing even during honors program. So, but there's not so much of a difference. The only difference that I have picked is just that there's more added information at honors level as compared to what you dealt with at undergraduate level, right? Then topic 4, guys, it deals with auditing of performance information. Auditing of performance information, abbreviated AOPI. Now, auditing of performance information is exactly or equivalent to the same thing as performance auditing. Now, what is key regarding to performance auditing, or what they call auditing of performance information in this instance, are the 3 elements, which is the economy element, the efficiency element, and the effectiveness element. But we're going to deal with that in a greater detail later. But obviously, from an undergraduate level, the concept definitely was introduced at third year level in my case. And at UNISA undergraduate level, I noticed this was introduced in AUI 3703. It's a third year level internal audit module. So that's where performance auditing was actually introduced. So what is it that you need to know from that, which are definitely going to come across? You should be able to perform audit procedures pertinent to the 3 E's. You should be able to draft audit objectives pertinent to the 3 E's, and also drafting even internal controls that are relevant to the risks that have been identified pertinent to those 3 E's as well, right? And then lastly, integrated case study. That's topic number 5. And then moving further, the breakdown of learning unit, or topic number 1, on planning and conducting an internal audit engagement. There are 3 essential learning units there. Learning unit 1, dealing with planning the audit engagement. Learning unit 2, conducting the audit engagements. And then, of course, learning unit 3 being on reporting and monitoring progress. So if you look at all these are literally steps that you would find in an audit process, right? So now another key thing to note, your global internal audit standards does play a pivotal role when it comes to this. So you definitely need to have your global internal audit standards in place while you're studying through this. Okay. Topic number 2, the internal audit processes. These are about 5 learning units there that you need to be familiar with. Learning unit 4, dealing with the financial systems audit. So essentially what you are finding here, these are different types of audits that are conducted, and all of them, they have to follow the internal audit process. So for example, in learning unit 4, they deal with what they call financial systems audit. So with financial systems audit, this is equivalent to what they call financial audit in other terms, right? Learning unit 5 deals with compliance auditing. Compliance auditing, colleagues, needless to say much around it. It's a common one that if you're in the auditing space, definitely you are going to be performing a lot of this. Why? Because organizations, or let me say corporate entities, they are expected to conduct their business in line with the law. They are also now looking at the internal role players. They're expected to observe policies. They're expected to observe codes of conduct. They're expected to observe approved standard procedures that are in place, frameworks, strategies, and all that governs the way that the business conduct itself. So all those are essentials to note that are relevant, especially when you're going to be performing a compliance audit engagement. Then, of course, there's what they call operational auditing. Operational auditing, it's also the same thing as performance auditing that I mentioned about, which obviously will be dealt with in a greater detail in learning unit number 4, or rather topic number 4, so to speak. Then learning unit 7, colleagues, deals with general and application controls. These ones, they are pertinent to a case where you are performing, or where you are to conduct what they call computer auditing or ICT auditing. So you definitely need to have a good background understanding around the type and nature of controls that governs that environment. So the controls that you'd find in such a setup, it's obviously in form of general controls as well as in form of application controls. Now, it's not a new thing. Again, it's something that you would have learned at an undergraduate level. And from my experience, I've noted that general and application controls are introduced to you guys in AUI 2601. They do touch a little bit of it, but not at an extensive level. But you find them dealt with in a greater detail in AUI 3703. That's an undergraduate internal auditing module. So when you look at it now at this level, they don't indulge in it in detail at this level. Why? Because they are of the anticipation that you already know these things from an undergraduate level. All right. And then learning unit 8, colleagues, it deals with what they call advisory services engagements. So these are consulting services that the internal audit function can offer to their employer, or to if it's an audit firm or a business advisory firm, they would obviously provide that to their clients. Okay, so now these are not actual internal audit engagements. I must point that out. But these are agreed upon engagements. A good example of advisory services would be a case where the internal audit team is hired to conduct a training for employees, maybe say on risk and on health and safety for the mining employees, right? So what type of service would that be? Definitely, it's not an assurance service, or it's not an audit engagement per se, but it's actually consulting or advisory services in nature. Very important to note on that. Okay, just a moment, colleagues. Apologies about that, colleagues. Okay. So that was to conclude on learning unit 8, which is advisory services engagements. And then if you move to topic 3, there are 4 essential learning units to note for that topic. Now, learning unit 9 deals on planning fraud investigations. So what you need to draw from that is obviously the responsibilities of the internal audit function when it comes to planning of the fraud investigation. And then in Learning Unit 10, it deals with performing fraud investigations. Now, you need to be able to disseminate the responsibilities of the internal audit function from the responsibilities of actual fraud examiners, right? So our our expertise in this respect are definitely not the same. So their responsibilities specifically for the internal audit function, and there are those responsibilities that falls outside of scope of the internal audit function, specifically because we are not experts in fraud examinations per se, right? So those are some of the things you're going to come across in learning unit number 10. Learning unit number 11, colleagues, it deals with reporting and follow up on fraud investigations, right? And lastly, they will give you some examples in learning unit number 12. Now, they do test a lot on this topic, I must say. It can contribute at least 20. Sometimes it can go as far as 30% of your final exam. You also find the same even in the assignment setup as well, right? Then topic number 4, auditing of performance information, AOPI. These 3 essential learning units to note, colleagues: background and overview of auditing of performance information. That is dealt with in learning unit 13. And then learning unit 14 deals with legislative requirements relating to AOPI. And learning unit 15 deals with the role of internal audit when it comes to AOPI. But we're going to deal with that in a greater detail when we get to that stage. And then topic number 5, it's around integrated case studies. So these will be like practical scenarios, where you are expected, to evaluate the information and, being able to respond to the questions thereof, right? So colleagues, that was just to give you the module content outline in AUI 4863. Now, similar to the other AUI modules, you'll discover there is 4 assignments. There are 4 assignments in this module. 2 of those are MCQs. So irrespective of the structure that you are seeing here, that, for example, assignment 1, most of the times is a multiple choice based type of an assignment. And then assignment 2, sometimes it can actually be an essay-based assignment. So don't mind the structure that you are seeing here. It might be exactly like that when you go to the My UNISA portal, but sometimes it might not necessarily be the case. They can always, in some instances, switch them around. But what is key to note is that all these assignments are compulsory towards the contribution of your year mark. So it means you need to complete all of them. Okay, right. That's important to note there. And then I just wanted to indulge on our tutoring services. So we provide online tutorial classes. Usually we conduct these via Zoom. We also provide assistance, assignment assistance. We also provide exam preparation bootcamp sessions. So these are actual classes that we conduct just to get you guys fit for your final examination. So during those type of classes, we get to discuss questions from past examination papers. We also get to discuss questions from past assignments, questions, just so that you are familiar with respect to getting yourself fit for the exam. So that's what this package is all about. So hence you notice I pointed out that this comprises of marathon classes, exam preparation packs, exam preparatory notes, right? So that's what that particular element consists of now. There are tips, obviously, also that we provide, just to ensure one is adequately prepared. Because, what I've noted from a practical point of view, because I was once a student, under normal circumstances, students, they do know, or rather they have knowledge of what they would have studied in the module. So somebody can be prepared from a knowledge perspective, meaning to say, the details that is given from topic 1 all the way to topic 5, right? And you're maybe even in a position to apply it in a practical scenario or where you're given a question. But now you discover that sometimes what hits people the most is failing to complete the question paper. And you get either an average result or sometimes even fail the module. So there are tips around time management when it comes to exam preparation that we also provide. And then, of course, we also offer one-on-one consultations, research guidelines, and professional editing, as well as career guideline. I know some of these might not be as relevant in your case because most of you, you are probably not yet doing research related subjects. But mostly you'll find that being pertinent, especially when it comes to the level where you are dealing with master's program and PhD, going all the way to professor level. But we are not specializing it with professor related type of research. Okay. So those are our tutoring services, colleagues. And then I wanted to talk about the class discussion now, what we are going to be discussing from a practical point of view. So if you noted in the group, I shared a question of the second assignment for the 2025 academic year. So I'm just going to switch now to that particular assignment question that we are going to discuss in part B of our engagement today. All right. So I just want to quickly go to the assignment question. All right. So colleagues, this is the second assignment question for the 2025 academic year that we're going to look into. And to be precise, we're going to be looking at the third question in that particular assignment. I don't know if you guys can see my screen or you can still see the PowerPoint presentation instead.
You can see the question paper is there.
Oh, you can see it. Oh, okay. All right. Perfect. Right. So I want to go straight to the third question, but I think before we do that, because I'm going to discuss it in detail in part B, but I just wanted you to also observe what is happening with other questions. So with this particular first question, really, it was one where you had to present your answers in this format. The only part where you were expected to type certain details is obviously here, but then they did provide certain information that you could use for column number 2, and likes. But I don't want to get into that because that's not my focus in today's discussion. However, I just wanted us to do an evaluation meanwhile for the third question. So if you look at question 3 in the assignment, in part A, they allocated 5 marks to this question. Let's evaluate what is it that they wanted you guys to do there. So they want you to briefly describe 5 risks that a company such as African Mining and Minerals might face relating to its workforce. Now, remember what we are trying to do is evaluating the required section. So first of all, you need to have a knowledge around writing, or let me just say, documenting a risk description. That's number 1. Before we can even talk about the actual risks themselves, you need to know how do you structure a risk description, or in actual fact, what is a risk description in any case. So when it comes to risk descriptions, it's important to note that it has to do with anything that could potentially go wrong. It relates to the undesired outcome that an organization might encounter or that they might experience. All right. So in part B, colleagues, I'm going to indulge further in detail regarding to this. We're going to connect for part B exactly at 11:50. So let's come back exactly at 11:50 to proceed further with this particular question, colleagues. Thank you so much. So you just reconnect using the same link that was shared on the group. Thank you.